Hello and welcome to the Los Angeles Motor Show 2018, and I'm joined here by our Deputy Features Editor, James Taylor, and staff writer, Jake Groves. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen. We're sitting here in a very hot car at the end of the day on the first press day. Lots of new cars being unveiled. Well, certainly been a few, haven't there? But it's been quite telling that actually a lot of the chat has been about, not about cars, it's been about digitisation. Volvo, who are sitting opposite their stand over there, haven't got a single car on the stand, which is extraordinary.
Yeah, it's quite something, and just caught a little bit of their press conference peripherally, and a lot of the talk was about connectivity, about services, and it's becoming less about metal and more about how you engage with the car.
Which is true, isn't it? They are trying to build this ecosystem where everything from an Amazon delivery being, popped into your boot when you're not in the car, to your car recognising your Google account and sort of setting up for you the moment you step in, possibly for a camera looking at your face when you step in.
That's
stupid,
isn't it?
Which is a bit odd, isn't it? It's a bit weird.
But it's the way it's going. And you mentioned, James, with BMW, you've been doing a deep dive in some of their tech, haven't you?
Yeah, BMW's chosen the LA show to reveal their, it's not been revealed, we've seen it already, but the first proper debut for the iNext concept, which is, I think we're all agreed, it's a little bit controversial to look at from the outside, but it's quite a significant car for a number of ways for BMW, not least because it showcases a lot of their autonomous driving tech and the sheer processing power that's required now. I mean, BMW's almost becoming a computer company as well as a car company. And also from an interior design point of view, I mean, this is a car with basically no physical switchgear, entire touch surfaces, and not made of materials you'd expect. It's quite fascinating.
Yeah. It is the way it's
that's one thing you notice when you sort of get anywhere near the iNext, isn't it? It's just how sort of stark it is.
Yeah.
Not just to look at exterior, but the interior as well is quite something.
Deliberately provocative, though, isn't it?
Yeah, true. I really don't like it, but I do understand why they've made such choices.
But onto cars which have caught your eye and you do like, Jake. What have you seen at the show that you actually have?
I know both me and James are talking about this. Over at Honda, there's an SUV called Passport, which is brand new. So it's meant to slot between the CR-V, which is the biggest one that we get in Europe, and then there's the Pilot, which is a sort of 7-seat US spec car. So the Passport sits in between, and it's really tough. There's loads of accessories for it, and you can have it with a V6. So like completely opposite end of this sort of futuristic tech company vibe that a lot of the brands have been giving off today. It's quite funny, and same with Jeep as well. Because I spent a lot of time with Jeep. They have revealed the new Gladiator, which is a pickup version of the Wrangler. And I love it, and I want.
Is it going to come to the UK?
Yes, I had a chat with some of the folks at Jeep, and they basically went, yes, we are going to engineer right-hand drive models. It's coming to the US first half of 2020. They didn't say when it would come to Europe, but I suspect it's going to be after the US market.
Pickups continues to proliferate, don't we? We've seen Mercedes pile in there, Jeep are now bringing it into the UK, Renault doing it. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? That is a sector which does seem to be doing well. And another sector clearly doing well is electrification. Electric cars, they're almost everywhere, aren't they? No, maybe that's a bit harsh, actually. No, maybe, but there's quite a few of them here. I mean, certainly we've got Tesla in their backyard, got a surprisingly small stand, haven't they? It's literally squeezed in on the edge of, and I've seen Audi have actually built in rather cheekily a very tall tower right next door.
Pretty much directly opposite Tesla's stand.
It's all about their E-Tron stuff as well, which is.
Which E-Tron is here. There's also the E-Tron GT, that's a world debut here, which is actually, I believe, the sort of their take on the Porsche Taycan.
Yeah, it's a very cool looking thing. That it's a sibling for that sort of Porsche Mission E or Taycan car, but I think it's visually quite a very stark thing to look at compared to the Porsche anyway.
I think it really shows, doesn't it, that how much interesting opportunity there is. I mean, I think these brands, particularly VW, over there, VW, they've shown the ID Buzz Cargo. Yep. They are talking about suddenly when they put their foot down on the accelerator for their EV program in 18-24 months' time, we're suddenly going to start these things rolling out.
And in the process, from VW's point of view, they've said goodbye to the Beetle. On the sort of flip side of combustion engine slowly going away, and in comes electrification.
New era out, another new era. The Rivian are here as well. We've met with the guys, including the head of engineering,
really
British
cool.
British guy Mark Vinyls, formerly at McLaren. Those cars are also going to come over to Europe as well in early next decade. We've got the R1S and the R1T, again a pickup. You can see a theme developing here.
Yes.
And what I like about what Rivian have done is that they are actually talking about the focus on cleaning up our cities, which you hear lots about, diesel bad, electric cars good. They think that's going to transfer over to the open countryside, which when you think about it makes total sense. If you're driving off into the countryside or on a beach or going off on a walking thing, why should you be belching out fumes? Which I think is quite an interesting take on proceedings.
Speaking of fumes, in LA here, we're on the 66th floor of a building yesterday, and you can see the smog that's lying over the city, and all these kind of clogged arteries. So many lanes and so little progress.
And you look at the fuel price. Driving past the gas stations. It's so much cheaper, isn't it? You can see why maybe in Europe it's an imperative, whereas over here, there's not quite the same focus from the sort of the American makers. Give or take the odd startup like Rivian, but the electrification seems to be driven more by the European makers. Do you think that's fair to say?
I'd agree with that, particularly maybe from Volkswagen's point of view more than anyone else. But I'd definitely agree that emissions in Europe are probably influencing the rest of the world, I think.
Tesla might disagree.
True. Which is obviously a very good point. They've got the Model 3 here. There's a few brands who've got really not very much, and yet they're still here. I think it's extraordinary that Land Rover have a stand here. All the expensive them up, but they've not got the Evoque.
Yeah, and they don't have the Evoque here, which was actually quite a surprise, because it's not long after we've actually seen the car in the metal, so to speak.
Only last week in London, and it's not here in LA, which I find slightly extraordinary. They're saving it for the Chicago show, I'm told, early next week.
That is here. The BMW X7 has had its first proper public debut, and apparently they've had 1,500 orders already in terms of credit card down payments.
Wow.
On the car, so.
Are they all from a registered Munich bank account?
That's the thing, because that car online at least has been really controversial. There's been so many people just throwing shade at the X7 ever since it came out. So that's really surprising. And there's been 1,500 people saying I want one.
This is its home territory. They were saying that they've chosen the LA show to give that car its first proper airing, because it's basically designed for the US market.
What about Mercedes? They've shown a refreshed AMG GT line.
Yeah.
Anyone had a chance to look at that? I've not seen it yet.
Yeah, I've had a bit of a poke around it.
What do you make of it,
it's relatively subtle updates. It's new headlights, some detail tweaks, but it's quite a timeless shape. I think it speaks volumes of the way they designed that car originally. Very clean surfacing, and quite excitingly, there's a new kind of GT4 inspired hardcore version, the GT Pro, which is for dive planes and aero flicks.
That's the name of the game of these cars, isn't it? You need to keep rinsing something out new every 12, 18 months, keep people
squeezing the sponge,
coming back for more. In terms of production cars at the other end of the scale, one of the big world debuts here is the Mazda 3, and I've been spending a lot of time meeting the people behind that. I think that's a very interesting car. It's got SPCCI, new combustion. It's a bit of a mouthful.
That's a catchy title.
Which we'll be writing about more fully online. You can read about that, which is quite innovative.
It's the compression ignition engine, isn't
it?
It does have a spark plug.
It does have a spark plug.
It is petrol, but it can behave
precisely.
like a diesel.
And apparently, I've not yet driven it. I know our Tech-Cross one, has, but it has that kind of low down torque that you associate with diesel, but it doesn't sort of tail off suddenly, so it actually carries on more. But it will, look and feel and sound like a petrol car, but it will behave differently, I'm told. But I think it's interesting they are developing Kodo version 2, they say. And I think it's interesting that for me, Mazda have brought a very, very good-looking aesthetic to their current range. I think they've been quite provocative now, a bit like they were with the MX-5.
Yeah.
If you remember when that came out, and we were like, oh my goodness, what have they done to that? And yet, I like the fact they're pushing. But
it's a very gorgeous car. I will also just
the
say
MX-5 or the 3?
The 3, sorry. I think it's a very, very pretty thing.
Yeah,
apart from that huge C-pillar.
The world's biggest C-pillar.
It's massive. I mean, for a family hatch, it's got a gigantic blind spot. And it's about sort of 2 foot worth of car.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's mad.
It's interesting.
Have you been able to sit in it, Tim? Have you been
I have, yeah. So it's roomy inside, but
Can you
it feels
see
a little
it?
bit. It feels a bit sort of bit gloomy in the rear.
Claustrophobic,
So,
and also, before we go, we can't really sort of be at LA without talking about the new 911.
Yes,
very true.
Obviously we've sort of gassed on quite a lot about what's been here, but surely car of the show has got to be 911.
It's been 911 for clicks. It's been clicking better than anything else on our site by some margin, it has to be said. I think they've appeared to have done quite a deft job of maintaining the character, but injected a bit of new tech. But a lot of the tech is actually, it's not that new. You know, night vision.
Not really.
things like
Yeah,
that have been around for a long time.
It's a very sort of on-trend car. There's a connected nav, night vision, adaptive cruise, a lot of sort of emissions choking related tech for the engine. It's a very sort of 2018 car in terms of the stuff that they've added to it. But yeah, sort of very, very minor revisions, but it's a 911, so naturally everyone's going to be interested in, and obviously has been online, so.
Yeah.
Have you had a proper look, James?
I have, yeah. And, the interesting thing is, it's actually now quite a big car compared to the previous one. I mean, not big in the grand scheme of things, but they've done, as you say, quite a deft job with the styling, because it still looks. Well, obviously you're not going to mistake it for anything other than a 911, but the proportions are still intact, despite the car having grown in quite a few ways dimensionally.
Which is, no, I need to go and have a look at it. I've yet to see it, but I've been letting you guys cover that, so we shall do that. Well, listen, that's a very quick scout around the show here in Los Angeles 2018. We hope you've enjoyed it. Do look at all the content online. We've got all the stories covered on the major cars, and let us know what you think by commenting below, and thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.